everybody, and welcome back to Musings by Nikki. I am here today with a little Q&A, kind of mid-project in this series that we're doing. I have my lovely journal that was gifted to me by Carrie, and I have written my notes. I've been taking my notes in here. So I've got my notes of what questions you guys have. So I'm going to set that over here. And we're just going to go through and answer some of the questions that I have gotten so far. And so I've got my coffee. I've got some examples of some things, and let's chat. First of all, after my last video and my whole, whining diatribe on the wood stove, it is fixed. Thank you to everybody who reached out in like many different ways saying that they really hoped that my stove was fixed. It is fixed. We have my sister-in-law's brother-in-law. I know, convoluted, but small town, everybody's kind of either related or knows each other. So, anyway, my sister-in-law's brother-in-law, or her sister's brother, just lives not that far away, and he is a really good welder. And so luckily and he's a mobile welder, which is another great thing, because you can't just weld. You can't just take your wood stove to the welder. No, you need a mobile welder with the truck and the rig. So anyway, he came and crawled in to the, I'll see if I can remember to throw a few pictures in here, right here. I'm just a spectator, look.
Huh?
This guy's doing all the work. There's our big heaping pile of water and mud that should not be in the firebox, because he's scooping it out because there's a leak and we can't heat our house with the wood stove. Stove, the actual leak, like just pouring out. It was an adventure. It's an adventure. Another part of moving here, adventure. Anyway, it is fixed, and we have a roaring fire going back in there, and the house has, we've reheated 350 gallons of water through the whole system back up, because we had to refill the whole system. We had to drain it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we've learned a lot, which is, probably a good thing, because I think our knowledge on the wood stove thing was fairly limited before this, and now we've learned a lot. And apparently we will be shopping for a new one in the near future, because this one is just maybe, she's old and she's lived her life. So, hopefully we can get through to spring, and then we'll start looking for a new one, which is no cheap endeavor. So I might have to, really bulk up on digital sales and stuff to try and afford a new wood stove, guys. Anyway, so, okay, questions. First of all, I want to, let's see. Okay, we'll just jump right in. Annette DePete asked how many pages are in each signature. So Annette, there are actually a couple of questions about signatures, because then also Dawn Boss and James Patrick James Patrick Handcrafted, both asked, how do you put a signature together? How do you choose the elements? And stuff like that. So we'll kind of address signatures, putting them together, choose the elements. We'll address all that right now. my question my answer as to how many pages I put in a signature is like, there is no easy question, or excuse me, there's no easy answer to that. I would say that it greatly varies depending on what type of journal I'm doing, how, involved and busy it's going to be. So here are my 3 signatures put together for the book that we're currently working on. I start with about 10 to 12 pages in each signature. Now, I am going to be the first to tell you that I usually end up pulling some of those out because I like to do lots and lots of embellishment, and the more embellishment you get, the more chunky the signatures get, and you just, you can't be sewing a 2-inch signature, multiple 2-inch signatures into a book, or you're going to end up with a 6-inch spine. So I usually start. So I put my signatures together. That's like the first thing I do. And it kind of this is my process. Everybody's is very different. You do you, but this is how I do. Curating my collection of papers that I'm going to put into my signatures then leaves me so as I'm cutting them down, to get them into my signatures, it leaves me with all the offcuts and all of the scraps. And then those, because they already match what I have in here, are great complements to provide continuity throughout the journal. So I use those in snippets. I use them as pockets. I use them, we used some of them to create these tags that will go in here. So putting my signatures, and it also kind of informs my, the direction I'm going with the book. Sometimes I'll say I put something in, and then as I'm decorating, I get to that page and I'm like, oh, I really don't like that page in here, so I'll just pull it out. Sometimes I don't like one of the pages in a kit, so I'll just pull that out. It just varies, but I usually start with 10 to 12. Now that is for a multi-signature journal. So if I'm making multiple signatures to go into a hardcover journal, I start with 10 to 12. However, I brought along, so I'm going to set these aside. I brought along one of the journals that's still available in my shop. This is still in my shop, guys. Help me pay for my wood stove. But I was going to show you. This is a single signature journal. And offhand, I don't remember how many pages are in here. But as we go, I was just going to use this as an example. As we go through here, you'll see that I have a variety of different pages in here. Now, how I put together a signature is also very dependent on what type of project I'm doing. So I have a whole bunch of different types of papers that I have collected from all over the place. A bunch of it's come in Happy Mail, garage sales, from friends who know that I do this. I've got tons of books from thrift stores, some books from friends. Again, my mom works in a place that her office actually shares the building with the local library here. And so when they're getting rid of card catalog cards or library cards, she'll grab me a bunch of those. So I get things like that from her. I've mentioned our dear friend Dorothy, who recently passed away, and her daughters are members of our church. And as they've been going through things, they know what I do and what kind of things I love, vintage books and things like that, postcards. So they'll set things aside and ask if I'm interested in them. So I've collected tons of stuff those ways. I kind of refuse, because of the nature of what we do, I refuse to spend too much money on anything. So most of it is stuff, especially the paper pads and things, they either come super cheap from Walmart and then I coffee stain them or something, or the dollar store, or thrift stores and garage sales and things like that. So I will also, and I will try to insert another clip right here, and maybe I'll just kind of walk you through my craft room a little bit and show you some of the different things that I've got going on. As far as, papers and things go. Okay guys, this is what I've got going on for papers. I've got books. These are just not even really vintage. They're just cheap books that I got at garage sales and thrift stores. Here's my whole set of encyclopedias, papers for a lifetime. On top of those, on this shelf, I've got a bin full of old magazines and sheet music. That's all stuff that's been given to me by friends, you know, things clearing out things. And then up here, I'm trying to be gentle and not give you seasickness. These are all, this bin is full of just my regular coffee stained paper and some lace stained papers. This bin is full of a whole ton of regular, what's the word I'm looking for? Patterned paper that is coffee stained. So I'll just stain whole chunks of that at a time. And then down here, these 3 bins are full of, like this one especially is full of different kinds of paper pads and notebooks and things that I've found from garage sales and stuff. They're all not coffee stained, so I can stain them at will or put them in as is. And then these 2 bins here have a bunch of vintage stuff or other ephemera or printed pieces or just random stuff. And sometimes I'll just start piling through, you know, going through them to try and figure out what I want to put in the journal. Then, guys, there's my pretty snowflake window. But then in this spinner, I also have some smaller stuff that sometimes I use or include to envelopes and things like that I'll include, you know, if I feel like it. And that's about it. That's the stuff that I use to curate my signatures. But I've just kind of got them organized in different ways, and I just go and shop. So I kind of get an idea in my head of what kind of journal I want to do. And then I start shopping. So this, for example, this was a design team project. So I was using some of Tracy Fox's papers, but they're very kind of basic papers, right? So I went, okay, I'm going to make, I've got a bunch of paper pads. So I pick out some of the paper pad stuff too. So I used Tim Holtz for the covers. And then I started going, okay, I wanted this to be kind of an eclectic writing journal. So book pages, you know, different kinds of coffee stain to add texture. So that's what I start shopping through. Now, if you're just new to this and you don't have a huge collection, like I mean, I've been doing this for a few years now, so you tend to collect things, you know, fairly quick once you get totally hooked into this. But if you're new to this, you still, don't worry. You don't have to just go buy a bunch of digis or go shopping and buy a whole bunch of stuff or go to eBay and start spending a fortune. A lot of the stuff you can make your own. You know, coffee stain stuff you can make your own. Find one doily. You don't need a ton of doilies. Find one, you know, crocheted doily, or take, you know, ask your grandma for the one under her candles or something, and lay it down on top of some paper and spray your copy paper with coffee and let it dry for 24 hours and you'll get impressions. And you don't need a whole journal full of this. You don't have to mass produce it. You can just put one as a feature page in your journal, and all of a sudden you have something that you've seen in other people's journals, and it sets off and it, you know, makes something pretty. The other thing I like to do is print on a different variety of textured paper sometimes too. So you can print on coffee stain. This is a parchment paper here that I printed on. Sometimes I print right on white and then print a different, you know, digital on the back. So that kind of gives a variety too of different things. Then this is a book page. Like I said, I've got tons of just old books. They don't have to be anything specific or spectacular. You don't need to go find that 1807, you know, super historical crunchy paper, you know, original copy of something. You don't have to find that, the original manuscript from, you know, Great Gatsby. You don't need that. It's awesome if you have that stuff, but they're pretty hard to come by and they're usually pretty expensive. So this is a page out of this is just a page out of and like a 1960s, like a retro encyclopedia set. I've got a whole set of them that I got for free, I believe, on Facebook Marketplace. You can find encyclopedias pretty easily at thrift stores and stuff because most people don't want the huge set of them anymore because it's so easy on the internet. That's a good resource, and they've got fun, interesting stuff in there. This is from an old magazine that I was gifted, again, from the friends who knew that I like to do stuff. This is some old sheet music. You can find sheet music all over the place. You can usually get bundles of it on Etsy if you're interested in kind of a starter pack or something. Yeah, so I mean, this is a little tiny book of essays that I had, so I sewed a page of that in there. Use different sizes. Using different sizes of things gives you more interest. So if you have small things, sometimes I'll just use an offcut of paper and put that in, so it's like a small little flappy piece. This is an old piece of like an old planner from, I don't know, the 70s or 80s or something. This is just some coffee stained, this is one of those mega pads from Hobby Lobby or Michael's or something, and it's cheaper paper, and so it's thin, and it's white on the back, and it's thin paper, but you coffee stain it, and all of a sudden it makes the image look cooler, and it's coffee stained paper on the back. This is one of my daughter Joy's coffee stained envelopes that's actually sewn into the signature, but even just this little flap is cute. If you're the one who owns this journal, so say you buy the journal and you're going, what do I do with this little thing? Well, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. You can glue something in there. You could glue a photo in there, and now you've got this cool photo flip and write about what the photo is on the back. Or you can journal, put a little quote right there about what this entry is about, all kinds of stuff. It just provides interest and fun things to do in a journal. So that's this is an old book of poetry that my parents had or something, and I think it ended up in my hands. This was a top 10 list that I found book at Target for like $1 or something in clearance bin, and I was like, that's kind of fun. So yeah, you just kind of got to look around and find stuff. So anyway, let's count the pages. I wasn't counting. You can't count and talk at the same time. Holy cow. Oh, see, here's an example. My mom, this is an example of a library pocket coming from the local library. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't count these smaller things like this. 8, 9, 10, I don't count this, 11, 12, 13, obviously not that, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 18 pages, so 18 and 18 is 36, and 36 and 36 is 72, so 72 pages. So there are 18 sheets of paper tied into this signature, and as you can see, they're fairly decorated. There's a lot of tags and things that make them a little that make the book a little thicker or bulkier. So 18, I would say on average my single signature journals are probably between 15 and 20 pages of actual paper, then folded, and you count the fronts and backs. So this one, like I said, is 18. So that means it's 72 pages. And you can see how bulky that is, but that's a single signature. But, you could do a single signature that is hardly decorated with not many tags or elements in it because it's just going to be like a writing journal. And you could do up to, 30 pages in there and it would be no bulkier than this. This just has a lot of stuff in it. So that's kind of how I curate my signatures. Let's put this back out here so we have something to look at. That's kind of how I curate my signatures and how I go through and pick what I'm going to do. These signatures in this one don't have as great a variety of book pages and all that sort of stuff because I was just kind of, that wasn't how I was doing. These have a couple of, this is just coffee stained parchment that we used some leaves from my yard and dipped them into paint and stamped with them basically. We'll maybe do some of this spring once things start growing again. Then this is just this right here is just some pattern paper from a pattern paper pad that I have. We made this pocket journal on one of my videos, a pocket. Then that's coffee stain. And this is, the reason I put some of this in there is because this is kind of a field notesy, so this is just some coffee stain ledger. That's just a cheap pad from either the dollar store or Walmart. More of the kit. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, this one doesn't have nearly as much stuff in it. You can kind of go as big or as small as you want to. You can have a whole ton of different stuff. You can throw lots and lots of different pieces and scrappy pieces and things like that in. Holy cow, that is a giant piece of machinery that just drove by my window. You guys, having this window here is pretty spectacular. I swear it provides me endless entertainment. I hope you guys get entertained by my, watching it and talking about the people driving by. I was gonna grab here. So these, I'm getting ready to decorate these for this journal. And these can go in your signatures as well. You could decide to put them, well, that's a bad, because that's here. You can put them like this, right? And you could just glue that down. And then on the other side, it's part of your signature like this, and it's a pocket. So you can throw envelopes into your signature. You can get cheap envelopes at the dollar store and coffee stain them, and you don't even have to dunk them in a bunch of or tea stain them. You just spray some coffee on there and let them dry it with a hairdryer really quick. And that way you don't have to go and, tea stain 1,000 pages. You can just do a few for if it's your first journal, or if you're, not trying to have a huge mess, you don't have a big space. A few envelopes like that are great, and those are fun to put in here. I mean, you kind of, the sky's the limit. You can junk mail envelopes. Fabric. You can make fabric pages, put vellum pages in, fold, if your book page doesn't fit this way, right, so that the reading's the right way, you can put them in sideways and decorate over them. It doesn't matter so much. You can do all kinds of different things. So I hope that answers some of your questions about how I do that and how I choose the elements. The elements are really based on, what the kit is that I'm doing, or what the theme is that I'm doing, and kind of what direction I feel pulled. It changes sometimes midstream, and that's okay too. Sometimes I get into the middle of putting, I've put my signatures together, and I get into the middle and I'm like, I'm just starting to lean more into like a real woodland thing rather than this field notes thing. So I'll pull some of the pages out and put some different pages back in. Don't be afraid to do that too. You don't have to stick with what's here. Another question. Yeah, okay, so Sherry Nelson asked how wide to make a spine to accommodate my signatures. Now, again, that totally depends. If it's a single signature book, then clearly you just, it's a single signature, so you don't have a spine. However, I will say that here, because I knew this was going to be thicker, what I did was, this is a paper cover, but you can do this with fabric covers. Usually if I make a fabric cover for a single signature, I have paper in between it. And I took my scoreboard, maybe you can see it from the inside better, to kind of create, I take my scoreboard and I put a bunch of scores right down, maybe an inch in this side and an inch in on this side. And then that gives me then I start just kind of bending each one of them in a little bit. And instead of having just one seam and this kind of bulking out, it gives it a nice little rounded spine. I hope that makes sense. It rounds it off a little bit and it makes it easier to accommodate the bulk rather than it trying to be like this. See here, not so alligator mouth, but if I went like this and it just had only one hard fold, then it wants to alligator mouth out on this end. So those folds there give it a little bit more room. So that's kind of a single signature spine. You can always sew only one signature into a hardcover too. I mean, that's not a problem. Apologize, must have forgot to put my phone on silence. Then I'll show you when we're actually binding this. I'll show you a little bit more specifically, but just as a general rule, what I would say is, so pretend like these are, my finished signatures and I'm ready to put them into a book. And I want to make my spine. I just lay them one on top of each other like this. And then, I grab my ruler and I go like this and I tip my head to the side and I look. And I go, okay, actually, it's easier if you go like this. Now I want to measure how wide this is, but you'll notice that this side is a lot lower than this side is going to be. So you want to take that into account too. So I'll go over here, it's coming to about 1 inch. Over here, it's at 2 inches. So if I'm going to make my spine, I'll usually go a little bit closer to this measurement, but not all the way because, it'll close down a little bit. So if this were my finished project and I was making a cover for it, I would go between 1 and 2 inches. I would go probably 1.5 or 1 3/4. And that allows for a little bit of expansion as well. So I measure both this side and this side and then kind of split the difference depending on how, smooshy it is, how smooshy the signatures are, how bulky or firm they are. Debbie Jones asks, how do I fussy cut my kits, hand or machine, and what kind of paper do I print on? I fussy cut my kits both ways, really. I try to use my machine now because I've had hand problems as of late. My Scan and Cut is like a dream come true. That thing cuts, what did I have? These things. I wanted to fussy cut these tiny little labels. These are a Tracy Fox thing. And there is just no way that and there's like a bajillion million of them on a page. These are all off of one page. There is no way that my hand could hold up while I cut 1,000 million of those little things, but aren't they so cute now? Now I have a bunch of them. And that's because I ran my page of them, printed it and ran it through my Scan and Cut. But some things, so like this, for example, my Scan and Cut can't really cut that because it's got all these little leaves on there and it won't recognize all of it and it'll just look weird. So I could either just hand draw a border and it would cut around that. Or sometimes I'll, if I'm having a good hand day, I can sit and fussy cut some things. Or my mom is a dream come true. And look what that lady does. She will come over and we'll sit and chat and have coffee and she'll fussy cut because she likes doing that kind of detailed stuff too. So thank you, Mom, if you're watching this, for all the fussy cutting. So yeah, I use both. And then what kind of paper do I print on? I kind of touched on this a little bit a few minutes ago when I was talking about putting signatures together. Most of the time I print on just, like if I'm printing a kit, I just print on paper, like white paper, because I like to print something on the flip side. Now I did just discover this paper and I love it. It's a little more expensive. I'm going to go over here and grab so I can tell you what it is. Oh, yeah, I'm just grab the whole ream because why not? It only weighs like 1,000 pounds. Oh, there, that's what it is, guys. This stuff is so awesome. It's 32 pounds, so it's a little bit heavier than regular copy paper. And it is like smooth. It almost feels like a matte finished paper or something, but it's not. It's just regular copy paper, but it's I got it on Amazon. It says makes your work look better. 100%, it totally does. And I can't tell you how much it cost, but I found this. So this is what it is. I found it on Amazon. Premium Hammermill premium color copy paper for color print. So let's move that sucker. So I love that one. Otherwise, you know, you can just use standard color or, you know, copier paper, printer paper as well. Sometimes, most of the time I print my ephemera onto like ivory cardstock. I like the ivory because I'm just not a fan of bright white in my journals. That's when I'm creating, because I just like grungy, vintagey stuff. That's my preference. However, in the book that I got from Carrie, I love the bright white. Like, I really love this aesthetic, and I kind of wish that I could do it, but I freak out and can't do it for some reason, and then I take my white papers and I have to make them not white because that's my design thing. I've tried it a few times, but I feel like I'm not very successful at it. So print on white, you know, plain copy paper, cardstock. Sometimes I print on coffee stain paper, although the edges have to be really smooth to, you know, so they don't get jammed into your printer. You can iron your coffee stained paper. If you didn't know that, you can iron it to get a nice flat edge. I've printed on book pages. I've printed on photo paper. I print on vellum sometimes. Pro tip, if you're going to print on vellum, especially like a full color picture, if you're printing, like, I love to make a full color print or like a wallpaper sample or something, print that out because it looks so cool on vellum. And then you're making your own custom vellum pieces, except, and they look great as a page in a book, but when you print that much ink onto vellum, it's going to just come out, as it shoots out of the printer, it's going to roll like this. And then it takes a minute for that ink to dry on there. So when you go to grab it, it's just going to smear on your hands and all over, and your thing's going to be ruined. So here's a tip. Don't ever just print and then walk away when you're doing vellum. Do it one piece at a time. Don't do more than one at a time. Put a heavy cardstock underneath, like in your tray, because most trays, you know, are only this wide, and then there's like some little sticky thing, and that's where it starts to roll. So put a piece so that it's going to be fully braced, and then you can lift it on that and move it away from your printer. So then if it starts to roll a little bit, you can kind of guide it with your fingers to lay flat on that piece. And then once you've got it out of the printer, just move that whole piece of vellum on that board, you know, cardboard or book board or cardstock or whatever, and just move it somewhere to sit and let it dry for like 5 minutes before you even try to touch it. As it dries, it'll flatten out. But at first, all that ink makes it wet and wants to curl right up. So there's a tip. But try it, because printing on vellum is beautiful. I've printed on fabric. That was fun. I was just thinking I wanted to try that again. So I print on everything, but I think for now, this copy paper that I just showed you is my jam. These pages feel buttery and lovely. So that is going to be a mainstay in my house. Yeah. So that's the kind of paper I print on. Then Helen Nelson says, how do you get the dots on the bag and the envelope when you coffee stain? So like she is talking about, well, now you can't see them on here. Well, kind of up here, right? The polka dot coffee stained papers. You can do that a couple ways, Helen. You can use like a pizza, you know, most people use like a pizza pan that you would cook a pizza on, and it has a bunch of little dots, like the crisper pans, not just a regular pan, but the crisper pan that has a whole bunch of little holes in it so that it, you know, the pizza crust will crisp up. Well, if you dunk your paper in coffee stain and then you put it on that crisper pan and put it into the oven on the lowest setting that your oven goes to. So it's like 165 or something, whatever your lowest setting is. Put it in there for a few minutes until it dries up. It's magic. It's science-y magic. Those dots just appear. They bake into the paper. And when you pull it off, you've got all those little holes on there. My daughter, let me grab some here. My daughter and she makes coffee stains. So you'll get a darker mark on the side that's laying on that's down, and then you'll get a lighter mark on the top. But both sides are awesome. So she uses, we found these disposable, and they're at Walmart. In the bakeware section, they're those tin foil, throwaway. You know how you can get roasters at Thanksgiving time that are made out of that heavy foil, and you roast your turkey in them and then you chuck it out. They're disposable. They make sheet pans that have this size, bigger holes in them, and they're disposable, although we've had the same pans for a year now, as long as you're careful and don't bend them. And they're fairly inexpensive, and you get 3 of them in a pack, I think. And that's what makes these. And look it's brilliant. It's a gorgeous pattern. And so that's how we get them on there. So my daughter Joy coffee stains papers. And from time to time, I'll have some in my shop. And they're made by my daughter, my 13-year-old Joy. And that's how we get the polka dots on ours. So those disposable pans at Walmart or a pizza crisper tray. And and then I also wanted to shout out Helen Nelson, because she gave me a brilliant idea for inking inside small spaces to use a Q-tip, which I have some laying around in my craft shop, and I've never even thought about that. So if I ever need to get inside of a small space, so I have yet to try it, but it's smart, and I am going to. Thank you for that tip. And for the women who, I think there were 2 or 3 of you that gave me a way to fake my whale tail punches tabs. how to fake them by punching a bigger circle and then punching 2 smaller circles out of it. I've yet to try that, because wood stove. But I certainly will. However, I don't mind, since I'm not going to pay $80 for a punch, I don't mind supporting other Etsy shops and stuff. If you guys ever want to send me Happy Mail, you could send me just a little envelope with a few whale tail punches in it, and that'd make me happy girl. Okay. And then let's see, did I answer all the questions? I think so. I wanted to shout out Kath. It's either Kath Sachs or Kathy Sachs, who sent me a viewer applause. If you look below the frame that you're watching my video in right now, if you're on an iPhone or any sort of iProduct. If you're on a Mac product, I don't think you'll see it at all. Unless maybe a laptop. If you're on a laptop, you'll see it. Any laptop or desktop computer, you'll see it, or you should be able to see it. And Android devices, but no iPhones, no Mac. I don't know about iPads. But below, where there's the thumbs up, thumbs down, like or dislike, there's also a little applause button, and it's a beta test that I got selected to be in a while ago from YouTube. And it's just another way. It's it's a way to financially support your favorite YouTubers. And it's, like I said, it's in beta testing, so there's only a handful of us with it. But if you click it, you can send me a couple bucks, and it just helps me, stay in supplies and stay doing what I'm doing. Now it's going to help me buy a wood stove. So anyway, she sent me a viewer applause, and I appreciate that. And someone else did a little while ago, and I wasn't able to see how, because it's a beta thing, I couldn't find it or see who did it. Well, now they've made it so you can actually see. So, but thank you guys for that. I really, really do appreciate that. I've thought about making a Patreon or a coffee or something like that. And I don't know. I don't feel like I'm quite there yet to start. I have a coffee account, but I'm not promoting it or anything. I just don't know that I'm there yet. But this applause thing, it's like a nice, it's like super chats, I guess, on live. If you feel like, wow, Nikki did something that was spectacular and I just want to give her $2 or $3. Anyway, that's enough of that, because I really feel icky doing self-promotion. It's just not my thing. But I just wanted to shout her out. Thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate it. And then last thing is the recipe for the banana cookies. So I'm going to post it in the description box below, because I didn't like write it on anything. And it's something that I just kind of made up. Well, I didn't make it up. I mean, there's lots of other recipes like this out there, but this is how I do mine, and I love them. I take 4 medium bananas that are overripe, because I feel like we always have overripe bananas. And if I just chuck them in the freezer, that'll just be more things in the freezer. And I do not need more bananas in the freezer. So 4 ripe bananas. Overly ripe is even better, but like what you would use for banana bread or something. But just 4, they just have to be mushy enough to mash them with a fork. So you put them in a bowl, mash them with a fork. Throw 1 egg in there and mix that into the eggs, or into the bananas. And then I put I put about, I'm gonna guess, like 2 teaspoons of cinnamon in there, and about a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and then about a tablespoon of honey. So I just kind of take a big blob of honey and put that in. I mix all of that up, and then into that I dump about 3 cups of old-fashioned oats. Don't use the quick oats. It would get mushy. You want the old-fashioned ones, like rolled oats. And then you mix all that together and let it sit for a few minutes, because it might be a little sloppy at first, but those oats will start to kind of absorb the stuff, the bananas and the egg and stuff. And then I dump about a half cup of chocolate chips. You don't have to put the chocolate chips. I have a sweet tooth. So if I'm trying to be healthy, this is a way to get a little bit of chocolate, but not too much. So you dump those in, and then it kind of forms this, because there's no flour in there, it doesn't make a batter like a cookie batter normally would be. It's not very firm. So I use like a 1/4 cup scoop, and I smack it out onto the thing, and I kind of form it into like a little hockey puck, and I try to make it, thick, because it doesn't have to really bake long. You're just kind of you're adding heat to help the oats absorb everything. So I make it into a little hockey puck, and kind of, an inch thick or something, and round, and put a bunch of them on. They're not going to spread. If you do this recipe the same way that I do it, they don't really spread or anything. They just kind of stay in their little puck shape, and you bake them for about 10 to 13 minutes, depending on your oven. And all you're just waiting for them to do is set up. They're not going to brown and all that sort of stuff. They just kind of set up, and then take them out, and they're lovely warm with a cup of coffee or tea. They're lovely cooled off and with a cup of milk, or as a grab and go snack. They're really good. You can add, instead of chocolate chips, I've put dried cranberries in there before. I've put raisins in there before. I've put nothing in there before. It's all good. You can add all kinds. It's a nice base. You can add all kinds of stuff in there. Anyway, that's my banana cookies. And they're great because my 17-year-old's best friend is totally gluten-free, has a really bad allergy to it. So it's nice to have some recipes on hand that are both healthy and gluten-free. So if she's over or around, we know that there's, they're absolutely okay for her. So anyway, guys, if you have more questions, as always, put them below, and I will try to answer them as I go, or I'll just answer them in the next videos as I'm crafting. I'll take a minute out to answer. I really want to, try to make this as informative process as possible and answer your questions. I'm not trying to have, I don't have industry secrets. I don't have information that I'm not willing to share. So ask away, guys. I want to be as helpful as I can. I love doing this, and if you are interested in trying to do things or just want the knowledge of how to do it or to make, application in different ways, I certainly want to share that if I can. So anyway, that's it for now. I will be back tomorrow with some, we're going to make some flip outs. I bet I can show you. I think I've put one in this signature. We're going to do this next craft along. Oh, yep, here we go. We're going to make these fun little flip outs. Oh my gosh, that I glued to the page. Oh no, I didn't. It's just there. ta-da, we're gonna make this. Anyway, we'll do that tomorrow in tomorrow's video, and I've got a few more crafting videos and stuff, and then we'll start addressing the signatures. We'll make a cover, we'll build the cover, we'll cover it, cover the cover. Sew the signatures in, you know, I'll show you how I do my binding and everything, into a hardcover. And then at the end, we'll probably do an end of project, which I think is going to be a challenge thing. I think so. We'll do an end of project like I did a few videos ago at the end of my design team project for Tracy. I did an end of project. So I think we'll do one at the end of this too, with whatever we've got left over. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, whatever time it is on whatever side of this glorious globe of ours that you live on. And until I see you tomorrow or the next day, or whenever you know, have time to come visit me again, I hope you stay safe. I hope you stay healthy. I hope you stay crafty. I hope you stay peaceful and joyful. And I hope you are blessed. God bless you guys, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.